From the Samsung Galaxy S6 Edge Plus all the way down to Nokia 3310, these are the top 10 phones of all time. When Samsung released the Samsung Galaxy S6 Edge Plus back in 2015, it was a great phone. Everyone was talking about how great it was with the two edge screens or dual edge screens, a 5.7-inch QHD screen or 2K screen, a 16 megapixel camera, 4 gigs of RAM, and over a 3000 milliamp battery. It was overall a fantastic phone. It had a great battery life. It was it was beautiful. It came with the latest software. And quite frankly, it was Samsung's big hit for the year. The next thing on the list is the Samsung Galaxy Note 5. Back again, also released in August 2015 alongside the Edge Plus. It was also greatly talked about throughout the year. With the S Pen, with its greatly improved S Pen, with the great display and aluminum body and a aluminum siding and a glass back, it made it look very good, very pleasing to the eye, and very gorgeous overall. Again, it has the same specs as the Edge Plus with the 5.7-inch 2K screen, a 16 megapixel rear camera, which can shoot up to 4K, a 4 gigs of RAM, a 3000 milliamp battery, and more. Next up is the Apple iPhone 3G. When it was released back a few years ago in 2008, it was a beautiful phone. It was Apple's latest release of their best option, their first phone. The very first time in App Store, and it wound up being a revolutionary product for Apple. A lot of people loved it, and it wound up being one of the greatest phones of all time for the company. Next up on the list is the Motorola Moto G. Excuse me. It was released back in November of 2013, and it had a great. It was a basically Motorola's budget option. Not only was it Motorola's best-selling phone of all time, but it was great specs for the time for a budget phone. It had a 4.7-inch 720p screen, a 5 megapixel rear camera, which could shoot up to 720p. It had 1 gig of RAM, and it had a 2070 milliamp battery, so it had an okay battery life. Overall, it was one of the greatest selling phones. It was actually the greatest selling phone of all time for Motorola. Next up on the list is the Motorola Razr V3. So this is another phone from Motorola, and it was a greatly released and overall great selling phone for the company. It was released in the third quarter of 2014, 2004, and a 2.2-inch screen, obviously very small, but that's kind of how it was at the time. A 0.3 megapixel camera, no video recorder, obviously, a 600 milliamp battery, 688 milliamp battery, which is okay for the time. And overall, it's a great phone. And the reason it was so greatly talked about was because of its design. If you look at it, it's a gorgeous looking phone. It looks pretty awesome for the time. I mean, if you compare it to other phones from that time, the other phones look bulky, huge, and just clunky. And comparing it to the Razr V3, it looks like a gorgeous phone. Next up is the Sony Ericsson V8 8OI. All right, so that's a mouthful, or V8 888. It's a mouthful. Don't try saying that 10 times fast. But basically, the reason I put this on the list is, well, it was released in 2007 from Sony, obviously. And the reason I'm putting this on this list is because of how great design was for its time. I mean, quite frankly, if you compare it to other phones other than the Droid, it was a great looking phone for the time. It had a great design. So if you compare it to other phones, that's kind of why I put it on the list. Next up is the HTC One M7. So this was a fantastic phone for its time. I remember this phone. It was back in 2013 when HTC released it. It had a 4.7-inch 1080p screen, 4 megapixel rear camera, as well as a front-facing camera, 2 gigs of RAM with a Snapdragon 600 chip, which is the greatest for its time, a 2300 milliamp battery, and more. And quite frankly, a lot of people loved the phone. It had no SD card slot, which was kind of disappointing, but overall, it was a beautiful phone. The Google Nexus 5 or the LG Nexus 5. So back in 2013 when they released it, it was one of Google's first popular stock Android phones. Again, it was made by LG. It was released back in November 2013. It had a 4.95-inch or 5-inch screen, 1080p screen, 8-megapixel rear camera, which is kind of terrible, a 2 gigs of RAM, and a 2300 milliamp battery, which is known to be very poor. Since then, they released the Google Nexus 5X from LG. They released it back in 2015, earlier this year, and it's pretty much the successor to this phone. Next up is the iPhone 2G, and you might be wondering why this is not on the top of the list, but the reason you'll see in a minute. But this is the second best phone of all time for multiple reasons. It was the very first phone, or one of the very first phones with a touchscreen. It had one of the first phones with a decent camera. You could play music, you could make phone calls, you could touch the screen, you could search the web, you could check the mail, you can do check the weather, you could text on it. There's a whole bunch of different things that you could really do that was revolutionary for that time. And quite frankly, it made it a great phone. It made it overall a great phone. That's why Apple's so known today with the iPhone 6s and 6s Plus. That's why, because of this phone. Finally on our list is the Nokia 3310. Not only did it have a incredible build, but it was great for that time. It was released in 2000. Uh, it was a decent phone. It didn't have a camera or anything like that, but the main focus point towards this is how great the design was and how military proof it was. I mean, quite frankly, you could drop this off a building or you can run over it with a military car and it would just still withstand. It was amazing. Since it's been discontinued, quite obviously, but it was really a great phone for that time. And that's why I added this into the top 10 chart as well as the number one phone of all time. This has been top 10 best phones of all time. And yeah, let us know if you have questions. Let us know if you agree with us or disagree with us. And we'll talk to you guys in the next video. Peace.